Noisy. Noisy.
All right. Oh, hi. My name is Heather, and I have been wanting to share my experience coming out and how I figured that out for myself. I came out later in life. I was married to a man when I figured out I was queer. And at that time, back 5-6 years ago, I was seeking out people here on YouTube to listen to their stories, especially those that came out later in life or were in a marriage and had to end it. Yeah, so I just want to add my story into the mix for people like me who just want to feel a little bit less alone, because it's a lot more common than I feel like is talked about. I think it's talked about a lot more now. Back 5-6 years ago, I can only remember a small handful of videos that I could find. So I would just like to throw my story into the mix. I played sports in high school, or I played sports all growing up, but in high school I was serious about it. And I don't know. I didn't even consider the fact that I could be queer. Not even on my radar. Didn't think about it as an option. So there wasn't some weird pushing down, suppressing of queerness. I didn't have crushes on any of my friends or teammates. I just quite literally didn't think about it as an option. It was just so shoved down our throats that boyfriend, man, I just didn't even think about it. So I go through high school, I'm playing sports, and funny enough, there's actually a decent handful of people that I played basketball with that are all out now, which is very cool. I feel some sense of guilt about how, my husband or my ex-husband, I don't have a husband anymore, about how my ex-husband had to kind of go through this too, and had I just figured myself out at an earlier age, I wouldn't have had to make it affect other people. But we don't know what we don't know, and at this point it is what it is. But yeah, so had no clue in high school, didn't consider it. I go on to college. Let me go back a little bit. I definitely have always dressed similar to this vibe. The thing about it, though, is just that I played sports, so I was always in athletic wear. I was a tomboy 100%. I felt so weird wearing dresses, and anytime we had to dress up for something, it was always the worst. Catch me in khakis and a polo, or a dress from PacSun, a surf brand dress. I just felt so, dresses always felt like a costume to me. So I think that would be the only thing, but I don't necessarily think that that's just a queer thing. I wish that was something that was more, I don't know, expressed and talked about. There's not a certain way to dress just because of your gender or the body parts that you have. You don't have to wear dresses. And so that would be the only thing I can think of when I was younger that would have been maybe a sign, is that I just felt uncomfortable in those types of clothes. So I've always dressed similar to this. Even while being married, didn't dress very feminine. I've always dressed kind of more tomboy. It definitely leaned a little bit more femme back then. I've gotten to lean more into just wearing menswear and not giving a shit. Either way, I go on to college. I went to a small Christian college to start, and that was not the vibe for me. I thought I wanted a small school experience, and it turns out that I didn't. So I immediately, after one semester, transferred to Knoxville. Hi, Flank. To the University of Tennessee in Knoxville. And so second semester of my freshman year, I meet my ex-husband. So I think I'm still 18 at the time. So we just met super young and started hanging out a lot, eventually made it official, and had a good relationship. We didn't have a toxic relationship. That man was my best friend for a long time. And yeah, I mean, it just worked out that way. I wasn't seeking out a relationship. I would actually say that about all of my relationships that I've had 3 serious relationships. I mean, I'm in my 3rd serious relationship, which will be my last. I wasn't seeking out anything in any of those. So we met, were a thing, and then just were a thing for the foreseeable future. And so I graduated high school in 2010, and so we met at the beginning of 2011 and dated. Things were fine. We weren't like a couple that broke up and got back together, and like we were together, like fully together. Obviously immature and partying a lot in college, but we didn't have a bad relationship. Like, we really didn't. So go all through college, things were cool. He was a year older than me, so he graduated, got a job in Illinois. So once it came up to my senior year, the agreement was just, okay, if I have a job out of school, I'll go where that job is. If I don't have a job out of school, I'll move up to Illinois with you, and I'll continue my job hunt. And that's what happened. I didn't have a job out of school, moved to Illinois. So I graduated in 2014. So I moved up to Illinois in May of 2014. That makes sense. I've been with this guy for like 4 years now, almost 4 years. Like, this is what we do. We move in together and like continue life. And we never really talked about marriage, like, at all. And that's kind of where, when I said like we were pretty immature, like we didn't have these conversations, and we had a very, not necessarily surface level, but we didn't talk about like deep things very often. But so it's May 2014, I move up to Illinois. I want to say like a week or two, like within less than a month after I graduated, we went on my like graduation trip to California to visit his family he had like a brother and sister-in-law that lived out there. So we went out there and he proposed. And of course I would say yes, because we've been together for 4 years, and that's what comes next. You graduate college, you get engaged, you get married, you have kids. That's what we do. So I said yes, and we were engaged. Within the month after I graduated college, I was fucking engaged. And when I think about that now, I'm just like, what the fuck, bro? Why? What was the rush? And also, we hadn't talked about it, and like the one conversation that we had was me saying, I really want to have a full-time job. Like, I want us to feel like pretty secure in what we're doing before getting married. And he didn't remember that conversation, but like, understandably, we only had one conversation about it, so like that makes sense. So yeah, come back, engaged. Now we start planning a wedding. Meanwhile, I'm still job hunting. I still don't have a full-time gig. We're in a small town in Illinois, like a couple hours outside of Chicago, and there just weren't a ton of, like, I would have had to commute pretty far, and I was just like, this is just like not working. Like, there's not jobs out here for me that don't involve an hour to 2 hour commute, which I don't want to do. So let me backtrack a little bit. He worked at a distribution center, so he worked a weird schedule. Like, he basically went in at the end of the day and would get like, he would come home for dinner, and that was his lunch break. So we would have dinner together, but he worked just like a weird schedule. So that was already like weird. So I was just at our apartment alone a lot. And I was watching a ton of Netflix. Like, I was binge watching Gossip Girl, Gilmore Girls, those kinds of things. And also YouTube. I've been a big YouTube fan since I was in high school. And I wish I could remember. I wish I was a better journaler. Like, I wish I would have documented all these things like as they were happening. I can't even imagine this would have been like incredible to have. So I don't have the specifics or the exact timeline, just kind of like roughly. But from what I can remember, 2014, while being in Illinois in the apartment, like by myself all the time, that's when I discovered lesbian YouTube. And the funny thing about that is I was like watching it, but I wasn't watching it in a way of like, oh my God, I'm gay too. This is why I'm watching it. Bro, how embarrassing. I just like, I don't know. I started to see myself in some of the lesbians I was watching in how they dressed. So it hadn't clicked for me quite yet in my brain that I too was gay, but I just saw people that looked like me and dressed like me. I think like back then there was a lot of couples that were pretty popular, like Shannon and Cammie, that era. There was several, I can't even remember the names of some because I didn't really continue watching a lot of them. But I did continue to off and on watch, like, there was a lot of collaborations happening back then from what I remember, so I would just kind of like bounce from one lesbian's video to another. And I didn't only watch lesbian YouTube. I watched a ton of different people. Like, that was honestly like my TV for the most part. I loved and still love YouTube. And so yeah, so I guess I slowly was introduced to that, and I do remember feeling maybe like a tinge jealous of what their relationships looked like or seemed to look like. I know we can make things look a certain way online. But I do remember just being a little bit like, I wish I had that vibe about my relationship with my ex. So, kept watching lesbian YouTube, didn't think much of it, was struggling to find a job, and I was just like, look, this is not working, like, in a small town. This has been fun, but I'm gonna have to move back to Nashville, back to Hendersonville, in with my family, and just keep job hunting and, like, use some of my mom's connections, because, I mean, getting a full-time job really just has a lot to do with your connections. So when I'm in a new city and I don't know anyone, it just wasn't as easy to just be introduced to someone and kind of go from there. So I moved back to Hendersonville. Oh, hi, Frank. This is Frank. And is Hirsch in there? Oh, yeah. That's Hirsch. And that's Frank. That's our cats. Moved back in. My mom was able to connect me with someone. I interviewed for a job, got it. And that, like, from there, I was like, okay. So then he started searching for a job in Nashville. So he ended up getting a job, moved back down. I feel like I probably still off and on watched My Little Lesbians on YouTube, but I don't really remember. Basically from like 2015 on to like say 2018, 2019, not a whole lot of gay movement. I'm sure I watched them off and on, but that was kind of it. But then we get into like 2019, and then I think really like 2020 for me was like catalyst. Man, I get so mad at myself because I wish I would have like, I have tried journaling so many times and it just does not ever work for me. And so I do have some stuff sporadically. I definitely journaled in 2020 briefly about some of this stuff, but I didn't journal before, like the like peak of me like really being like, this is a thing. So I don't really remember timeline. Definitely 2019 or 2020, likely 2020. I feel like a lot of people can probably relate when you start to connect the dots that you're queer. You just start consuming everything gay. Like, I was just anything that had any... Obviously, I started binge watching The L Word, mind you, while married to a man, which is so funny. I would literally find shows that had like an episode with someone that was a lesbian in it, and then started watching like the lesbian movies. So like Carol, Below Her Mouth, I think. I was just rabid for consuming queer content. And like I said, I feel like maybe that is something that other people can relate to. I feel like that's not just a me thing. I think it's just kind of, as soon as you kind of put it together, you're like, oh, let me learn about this culture. So here I am, married to a man, and knowing so much about lesbianism or just like queer culture in general, which I find to be so funny looking back on it now. Like, literally, I was just talking with my girlfriend about it. I was driving the other day, and Pussy is God by King Princess came on, and I like was transported back to when I first found that song while married to my ex-husband, just like jamming to that song. That is so funny to think about. It's so funny. So we're into 2020, really figuring like everything out for myself. My ex-husband started traveling for his job more, and you know, when your partner travels, you shouldn't be excited. And not a diss to him, but I was like a little bit excited when he would travel, because I just like, I didn't have to be more sneaky about watching these shows. Like, I could watch them on the TV instead of my computer upstairs. Like, absolutely should not be excited when your partner is traveling. And it got to that point. And also, to add in, this doesn't necessarily have to do with the queerness component, but as far as my relationship goes, 2020, as we all know, was a crazy year. Not only because of COVID, but because of all of the shit that went down in the world, even like social justice wise, specifically George Floyd, and just like Trump really being like, really I don't know. We started having conversations that we had never had before. And how sad is that we hadn't really had those conversations? So that was a little bit of a component as well. I had gotten to a point in my life where that was starting to become pretty important to me, like learning about the world and like standing for something and not just like focusing on like tailgating and watching sports every weekend. Like, I was starting to figure out like what I enjoyed and what I wanted to do in life. And he was still very much similar to how he was in college, which isn't a big deal, but it's just not what I was looking to do. So that happening also started to kind of create this divide between us, or not even divide really, but just like growing apart a little bit more and really getting to a level of like feeling like roommates and not like partner or love of your life kind of deal. So we were just very disconnected emotionally and that kind of stuff. So all of that was happening at the same time. So you have me figuring out, wow, I have a lot of differences of opinion with my husband, which is fine. I don't necessarily think you have to agree with everything, but I didn't want to be arguing with my husband about whether racism exists or whether that there is a wage, like a pay gap for men and women. Like, there's all these things, like, I don't really want to be arguing. There are certain things that is fine to disagree on. Some of those things, abortion, racism, like women, like rights, those are three things I want to be on the same page as my partner on. So that was happening at the same time as I'm really coming to terms with my queerness and accepting, damn, like, I'm definitely queer. But thinking for a long time, maybe not a long time, thinking for a year or so, like, I think I slowly kind of came to terms with it, but there being just like a period of time where it was just like, that's not something I'm going to be able to act on, obviously, because I'm married, I'm in a relationship. So everything built up to 2020, and I definitely was continuing to watch tons of queer content. I was starting to notice women out in public more than men, like, as far as like being attractive. So it really started to seep into my everyday and like it went from being something that was just like out of sight, out of mind, to front of mind. Like, couldn't stop thinking about it. Like, that's just like, it got to a point where I had to like figure it out or figure out what to do next or whatever. And then I met someone online. So this is not someone that lived in my town. I feel like that's all, honestly, how that went down is like a whole separate video. And I feel like for the sake of this video not being a fucking hour long, maybe I should save that. But I'll tell you the highlight, and if that seems interesting to hear, I would love to share that story. Because we're not together anymore, but we're on fine terms. Like, we're good. But I had a dream about someone that I remembered seeing online in that lesbian YouTube world. And yeah, had a dream and was like, who was that? Woke up, had to figure out who it was, found them on Instagram, followed, and then we started interacting with each other. So I'm full on in a relationship with a man, and it wasn't something that was like immediately flirty. They just happened to follow me back on Instagram, and I was like, that's so weird, because I am just a random person living in Nashville with like 1,000 followers. Why did this person follow me back? They don't like know who I am. And this person like had like a thing with another YouTuber back in the day. So they had a little bit of a following. So for me, it wasn't weird to like follow because they was already like, they had a following. So it was like, when they followed me back, I was like, that's weird. Like I'm not like an internet person. Once they followed me back, I think I started like interacting with stuff on their story, and then they would interact with stuff on my story. And that's kind of how we slowly started just kind of responding to stuff, just in a very innocent, like normal, like way. But then at one point they were kind of like, how did you like like kind of like a who are you, like why did you follow me, how did you find me, like what is this kind of deal, because it did eventually get a little flirty. And I would like to pause here and say that I don't regret how anything happened. Well, I don't like to regret things because like we just like can't do anything about things that have already happened. But I do wish that I would have found a different way to handle things, because I did cross a line within my marriage. And I wish that I would have handled it differently. I'll say that and then carry on. Started getting flirty. Eventually, Instagram messages turned to texting, turned to FaceTiming, and talking like all the time. So we're like talking nonstop for a month. Which is also kind of crazy because to explain the point that my marriage was at, I'm literally texting and like talking to someone nonstop on my phone, and it like wasn't even noticed. Not that that's maybe a little unfair actually, because we didn't have a relationship where we were checking each other's phones or like suspecting, like that was so out of character for me to do that and to cross that line. And I can firmly say that if queerness wasn't a part of this, I would never cross that line. I would have never. This had nothing to do with my ex-husband and being unhappy with him. It had everything to do with me just trying to figure my shit out. And it got to the point of me just really just like needing to know for my own sanity, and just being like I just like have to know. And I'm to the point where I'm willing to hurt someone to figure it out for myself, which isn't awesome to say, but it's honest, and that is what happened, and that is how life went for me. We're talking like nonstop for a month, and I'm like getting a taste of what it's like to have that relationship that I was seeing years ago online, talking about everything, talking about deep stuff, like having when someone has a sense of humor that you really like mesh with, and you can like really joke around, so that like you get both. You're getting like depth, and you're getting like funny, and can talk about anything. Like I was getting a taste of that, and I was just like, this was a lot easier for me to be flirting with and speaking this way with a fellow vagina haver. So I started kind of obsessing about it, and I wish that I would have just felt comfortable enough to talk to my ex-husband and just say what the fuck was going on and what I was feeling, and just like bring him in and try to talk through it with him. But that's not what I did for over a month. So talked nonstop for a month. I was like, hey, I know this is so weird and we haven't even known each other very long, which now looking back, this is like so gay, which I didn't really realize that because I was still learning about queer culture, but this is so gay of me. I was just like, hey, I need, like, is it weird if I drive up to you to meet you? I will get an Airbnb for one night. And if things are like weird, uncomfy, we don't hit it off, I will literally be on my merry way, and I will go on a little solo road trip, which was like originally my plan. And they were like cool with it. They were like, sure, yes. And so I drove 12 hours to visit them where they lived, and lied. I told a half truth and was like, I was struggling at that point and things were weird, and I had been helping a friend shoot her cookbook. I was taking photos. So I was spending a lot of time like away from my ex-husband and staying, because she lived like an hour away, and I would stay overnight sometimes. Like we would shoot one day, I would stay and then shoot the next day, and then I would come home. And so I was like getting a little bit, I was like, this sounds so terrible, bro. I was like enjoying being away and just having time to be by myself and to think. And yeah, so that was kind of what I said to him. I was like, you know, I've been going out and shooting this cookbook, so I've been like alone a lot, and I'm like, I kind of like really need that right now. Going through a lot of stuff. There's stuff that I need to figure out. I'm gonna go on like a little like long weekend trip by myself. And I just like have stuff that I need to figure out. And he was like, things that you need to figure out about you or about us. And I was like, both. So I didn't lie there. So I didn't like make him think everything was peachy. So also know that like things weren't necessarily peachy with us. Like we were very disconnected, very much roommate vibes. And at this point we're together like 9 years also. We split like just before our 10-year like thing. So this is someone I've known for a long time, which is another reason why I wish I would have handled it differently. But the struggle that was going on in my brain. So I booked the Airbnb and forgot that our account was connected. We were married. We were together 9 years. We had the same account. So he gets a text on his phone when I book it, which I wasn't necessarily hiding where I was going. I was trying to figure my shit out on this trip so that I could then come back and talk to him. Like I just like needed to like figure it out. And that is inevitably what happened. But he gets a notification, comes upstairs and is like, "You're going to Minnesota? Like, what the fuck? I thought you were like going back to my friends that I was shooting the cookbook at, or like I thought you were like, why are you going to Minnesota?" And I just like lied and was like, I just like picked a random place. Like that's like, I don't even remember what I said, but I said something. I pretended like it was like kind of random. And I was like, "Look, just, I need you to like, I wish I would have journaled better. Oh my God. But if I'm remembering right, I was just kind of like, look, I need you to just like let me do this. And like, I have shit that I need to figure out." And he did not ask a lot of questions. I will say if I was in his shoes, I feel like I probably would have asked a lot more questions, and he didn't. Went on the trip. Obviously, the first hangout went great. Ended up staying with them the rest of the time. And we kissed and held hands. We did not do anything else, but we did kiss. And obviously, like, continued being, like, really flirty and stuff. So, definitely crossed the line. Definitely still cheating. Definitely still not okay. But I had no, like, there was no plan for me to hide this. Like, as soon as that was happening, like, during this whole trip, I know in my head, I'm making this drive home and I'm ending this marriage and, like, telling him everything. And so trip was great. Trip was fine. Drove back home. I will say, also to back up a little bit, on my 12-hour drive, I think I said this already, it was 12 hours in the car by myself, and I got in the car. I left really late, like really, really late at night. I was gonna wait till the next morning, but I just like couldn't. I like couldn't sleep. I was just like, you know what, fuck it. I'm just gonna like drive through the night. I'll get there earlier. That'll be great. I was in my car. I think I stopped and got coffee, and I just remember thinking like, oh, my toe just cramped. No. Oh, not a toe cramp. That's me being punished for my past decisions. I remember stopping and getting coffee on the way there. It's like 5 in the morning, or 4 or 5 in the morning. And I just remember thinking like, or not thinking, I remember waiting to feel guilty and to be like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, why are you doing this? Like, turn around and go home. I was waiting to feel that. And I never felt that. And that's shitty. That's shitty of me. But I I just needed to figure my shit out. Like, I don't know how else to say it. I just needed to figure my shit out. And yeah, so this whole drive out there, I'm like windows down on the interstate screaming like the songs that I was listening to, like scream singing, feeling so like free and not feeling like I'm making a bad decision. And that sounds terrible. But I was like, it was like a weight being lifted to figure that out. Still regret how I handled it, but I will say I'm like glad that I was able to feel that, because I don't know. Clearly I needed to figure this out, because I'm not trying to bring in somebody else to, like, yeah, the faster I figure my shit out, the faster this other person can then go find the person that they are meant to be with. You know what I mean? Like, and both of us. I'm driving home and obviously bummed because, you know, I had been with this person that I had been like connecting with like so like deeply and like had the beginning of a good relationship going, and so I'm sad to go home and dreading the conversation that's coming. I got home really late at night. Like, I want to say it was, well, it wasn't even that late at night, honestly. It was nothing unreasonable. It was like 1, 2 a.m. maybe. And I pulled up to the house and like parked, and I like had to sit there for a second and like prepare myself and be like, all right, this conversation is like about to go down like right now. Like, I was like, okay. I go inside. All the lights are out. Our bedroom door is closed, and our dog is in there with him too. So it's just like everything's complete. Like, and he knows I'm like getting home at that time. Obviously, I like texted him, was like like on my way. I'll be there at this time. And I'm like, damn. If I'm you, sir, I'm sitting on that couch, and I am like, fucking spill. What the fuck is going on? You know, like, I that would have been me. I would have been like, all right, I need to know what the fuck is up. That's not what happened. So I just went upstairs into our guest room and slept there, because I had missed a couple days of work. Like, they knew I like took off. But because of my job in construction, I was like, I woke up that morning and was like, hey, I need to run to site and just check in on things, make sure everything's good, and then I will come right back. Like, I will be gone like maybe an hour, if even. I just need to like check in, make sure things are good, make sure we're moving okay, and then I'll be back. And I have like just gotten to site, and he calls me, and I was like, hello? And he was just like, you cheated on me. And I was just like not expecting that, especially like to call and do it and not just, I'm literally going to be gone less than an hour. And had he been like, no, we're talking about this now, I would have been like, fair. But he didn't give any pushback. So I get there, I'm barely there, and he is like, you cheated on me. And I was like, what are you, like, where is this coming from? Why are you saying that? And he's just like, he's just like kind of out of, you know, like, he's like stressed. He responded exactly how I would have responded. And I was like, I'm not doing this over the phone. I'll come home right now. I'll be back in 10 minutes. And that conversation, a motherfucking blur. But, and also, some of this is, like, so tough to, like, know what to share also, because obviously it's my story and my right to tell my story, but it's also his story, and he's not signing up to have his shit blasted on the internet, so I feel like the specifics of the conversation are unnecessary. But to highlight, you know, we, like, talked through, I, like, explained everything, and, like, I mean, that conversation was, like, basically the marriage ender. Like, it's crazy to think about now. And obviously, it wasn't like, oh, I moved out immediately. I think that night I did go stay with my parents to give him a night, like, away from me to, like, yeah, obviously, anger was a thing. Rightfully so. And, yeah, so because I had to stay with my parents, I, like, had to call them and be like, I really need to talk to y'all. Can y'all come to this spot. I think I dropped a pin in the spot that I used to like eat lunch at a lot. And I was just like, can y'all meet me at this spot? And weirdly enough, my dad normally gets off work late. I think he had gotten off early for some reason. I can't remember why. But my mom was literally like, your dad is on his way home. I'm going to wait for him and we'll both come. So like that was kind of a weird thing. Because yeah, for his job, he sometimes gets off work at like 8 o'clock. You know what I'm saying? So that was kind of weird that like the way that that worked out. But they came, met me. I obviously told them everything. And it wasn't like my parents weren't like angry or they're not homophobic or anything. I think they were just like in shock. Just like very much like, because I not only had to be like, I'm gay, I was like, me and Joe, I don't even remember how I told it, honestly. But basically me and Joe are getting a divorce and I'm queer. So that's something that they had to mourn because he was in my life for like 10 years, but he was also in their life for like 10 years. So they had to like mourn someone as well. But yeah, that was like a crazy conversation that I also blacked out. And then yeah, we slow rolled it. And I feel like I remember saying like, are you cool if like, obviously I'm going to move out and like, we're going to move forward with divorce, but like, are you cool if we just kind of like take this slow? Like, and like, this is a lot. So it was like a month. I lived at home in the home that we had bought for like another month-ish. And then I moved out. And then I want to say we waited like another month after I had moved out. And then we filed for divorce. Because it was just like, it felt so weird to just be like, move out and a week later and then immediately, like I just wanted to kind of like sit with it for a bit and just like make sure that I don't know, it was like a part of me was like thinking that, oh, all of this is just gonna be like, oh, what the fuck are you doing? Like, this isn't what you want. But then the other part of me was like, this is absolutely what should happen and this is the right thing to do. So it was like a weird thing. It was like I almost wished that I would have like been like, no, this isn't what's gonna happen. But deep down I knew that like this was 1,000% the right thing to do. But yeah, I mean, then we got a divorce and I ended up being with that person that I met online for like 2 years. Yeah, I definitely wouldn't recommend if you're in a relationship with someone and you figure out you're gay. I hope that you have the type of relationship where you can talk it out with that person. I wish I would have tried that, but I obviously like didn't feel comfortable too. So that's a bummer. A lot of people just know they're gay from a young age, but some of us don't have that going for us and we figure it out in a weird way because of lesbians online. And, you know, it doesn't really matter how we get to figuring it out. The important thing is getting there and feeling comfortable to, like, allow ourselves to go there. At least that's what I think. And now, like, look at this kitty I have. Look at him. Yeah, I know. You're sweet. But yeah, that's kind of it. I mean, I feel like that was very long-winded, but I like this kind of content, personally. I love just, like, listening to people talk about shit. So, not that you, like, have to love what I just had to say, but, like, I just wanted to share. Like, that's what it looked like for me. Yeah, honestly, being gay is, like, so incredible. Everything just seems to make a lot more sense now, too. It just makes so much sense. Like, of course I'm gay. When I think back now, it just is, like, I don't know. I feel like I was, like, blacked out for, like, 6 months of my life or something. Like, I was, like, or it's, like, an out-of-body experience, almost. It was, like, I was, like, doing things, but I almost felt like I was, like, watching myself do things. I don't know how to describe it, but it's just kind of crazy to think back now. Because now I'm 33, so it's been almost 5 years to the day. Like, I'm filming this July 5th. My little visit happened at the end of August of 2020. So, like, I came out August 2020. So, it's pretty crazy that it's almost been 5 years. Like, that's crazy to think about. What a time, honestly. I'm gonna stop talking now because this is probably like an hour long and that's long. So I'll see you in another one of these maybe. I don't know. I like talking to a camera. I think it's kind of fun. So